so much. Good afternoon, everyone. Archbishop, principals, Reverend Thwaites. Good afternoon, everyone. A few decades ago, I'm going to say a few so I don't date myself. I passed what was then known as a half scholarship for a high school, right? And I look around and I'm sure most persons here would know what a half scholarship is. It means the government pays a half of the fees and your parents had to find the other half. And my parents, my mother is a housekeeper. She never had more than a first grade education because of the circumstances of her day. My father, a carpenter of churches, and you know how that goes with the voluntary contributions. And my parents simply said, we cannot afford for you to go to high school. You cannot take up this half scholarship. Good thing, the following year I could do the exam again. You had another chance. And I got a full scholarship to go to a school. And that was the way I went to school. And whenever I go back to my community, I still see a lot of my friends with whom I attended school. And I simply say, for the grace of God, right? And so, I'm saying that story because still in Jamaica today, there are many parents who are not able to put the additional investment that would be required of schools, such as the ones that are being talked about here this afternoon. Last week, a parent sent me an invoice from one of the schools. And this is what we get in our position as Member of Parliaments. We see the parents, and we know it's not because they're buying hair or because they're buying shoes. Their jobs that they have just does not afford them the kind of fees that schools are charging. And I want to get to this particular one. It says, please be advised that, and the child's name is a registered grade 7 student at the above named school. The school charges and banking information for the academic year 2022-2023 are as follows. School charges $27,000, supplies $21,500, PTA $3,000 for a total of $51,500. This parent earns a little bit above minimum wage. What should I tell that parent? And this is a parent who already is contributing uniform, books, lunch money, bus fare, a rural parent. Bus fare is off the charts for rural parents. So what I'm saying is, there's a reality out there for the majority of Jamaican parents for which we have to be aware. We're not saying that there are not parents who can afford to contribute. And I normally say we support parents contributing to their schools, to the schools that their students attend. We're simply saying it cannot be mandatory, given that the vast majority of our parents in Jamaica are earning at the base. They're not earning the kinds of salaries that would allow them to pay $51,500 to a school. I've listened to the numbers here this afternoon, and I don't think it's fair for you to just dismiss the fact that, oh, we don't count what government pays for teachers and so on. It isn't fair. It's not, you're not doing it justice. Because when you look at the budget for last school year, which was about $117 billion, and you do the simple math on that, the government, through taxpayers, is paying $175,000. $195,000 per child. So what our schools are asking for as of this afternoon is that the government should add another amount over and above that. Within the context of our budget here in Jamaica, roughly 19 or 20% of that budget goes towards education. And that is a significant component of the budget. I'm not going to stand here and say there are not needs in our schools. There are plenty needs. Our principals have aspirations for the schools. They would like to have a better looking field. You heard the list this afternoon. You want to have new computers in your lab. You want to be able to do schools challenge and pay for that. You want to do sports. You want to do a lot of things. And I know, there's nothing wrong with wanting to do these things, but the reality is the parents of the students who attend the majority of our schools simply cannot afford it, and it's not because they're going on dream weekends. Yes, there may be some parents who do that, but not the majority of our parents. And so government continues to say, we encourage parents who can afford to please go ahead and make that contribution. But when it becomes mandatory to the point where a parent is told your child should not come back unless you pay the fee, or the other things that parents come to us about from the ministry's perspective or even as MP, we simply cannot allow that to continue. So I will always say and always will encourage parents who can contribute to schools. With regards to infrastructure, Mr. McBean, you touched on that, and I will agree that our spend on infrastructure is lagging, significantly lagging. There are many schools that require a rebuild. Many schools require a new roof, new flooring, new doors, new windows, expansion, and so forth. And I've said it many times, our infrastructure spending could need some topping up across the education sector. And you just need to eyeball our schools for what they have. Education in Jamaica used to be only available to a certain segment of the population. Successive governments have ensured that they widen the education opportunities for children in Jamaica wherever they are. We are at the point now in the life of our country in which all the children were born every year in Jamaica, which is some 35,000 children. They have a guarantee of an education. Where we are now, the conversation is about the quality of education. What are we going to do to improve the quality of education in our schools? The quality, I think Mr. Wright mentioned the quality of teachers coming out of our teachers' colleges, the quality, the national standards curriculum that we have. How can we get everyone to adhere to the national standards curriculum? How can we get greater internet connectivity into our schools? We're doing that. There are many schools already that are on the government's broadband infrastructure. And so that fee that they used to pay for internet connectivity is no longer a fee that the school absorbs, but the government absorbs that. So that is rolling out. That will take some time. We are equipping our students with devices. Pre-pandemic, there were probably 18,000 devices in the hands of our students. Now it's well over 200,000, and we're continuing the efforts. Pre-pandemic, our teachers did not have a laptop. Right now, Except for a few teachers in our primary school, all our primary school teachers are outfitted with laptops. We will move on to our high school next. So there is spending that the government is doing. I understand, though, just the aspirations of principals and the need that they see in their schools and their need for funding. I am not saying it does not exist, that what you want for your school is not good. That's not what I'm saying. Schools want to have a pool, they want to maintain their pool, they want to see their school grounds looking good, they want to be able to do all those things that they believe would put their school in a good stead. And there's nothing wrong with that. It's just that all of us have to live within the constraints of the budget that we have. And currently, again, between 19 to 20% of the non-debt part of the budget is spent on education currently, and that relative, when you look at the Caribbean, when you look across the world, that compares with other parts of the world. I know that we will probably not have an agreement on this in terms of returning to the mandatory nature of fees. That is not where the government is right now. That's not the policy of the government right now, because we understand the pressures that parents have. We wish all our parents would have the kinds of jobs where it would be nothing to pay $50,000, but the reality and where we are today is just not there. And to put that on parents is going to significantly impact the attendance rate of students at schools, because parents will simply make an individual decision, a private decision, because the principal said, don't come back to school, or the principal embarrassed me this morning when I went to school, and those things happen. I'm not making them up. They happen, and that is not what we want. We want to encourage school attendance. And we're saying to schools, yes, you may have a goal way over here. Here's what the government can afford. If you're able to convince parents to make up the difference, not a problem. We encourage parents to contribute. It's just that you cannot say, you cannot force them, you cannot say it's mandatory, you have to. And if you don't, here are the penalties. And, this is where we are, and to say otherwise, I think I would not be truthful and honest with you. So this afternoon, I know our schools do a lot, our teachers do a lot to educate our children in the best way possible. I know we have a lot of challenges in the system, but we all have to pull together, again, within the constraints of the budget that we have. Our budget comes from you, the taxpayers. This I do know, though, that as the economy expands, I am sure the contribution of the government towards education will expand as well. But we need an economy to continue to expand so that we're able to get bigger budgets, to do all the things that are needed in our schools. I know there are gaps. But again, it is not the policy of the government to make mandatory the fees that schools want to charge our parents. Encourage them, yes, in whatever way you can to give, and give some more, adopt a child, and so on. But we know that the majority of our parents are overburdened right now. Thank you.